I'm going to start tracing through some of the genealogy and family history of the Amberson line. And my name is Rob Amberson, and so I'm a descendant of many Ambersons, of course, before me, and I'm going to document what I have. And starting with family search, I'm going to start with William Amberson and Eleanor Coates. Now these lived in the early 1700s, this couple here, and I believe this is sort of the beginning of the family search records that I could find. And we're going to start with these two, and then we're going to go down through the Amberson line and touch on some of the different descendants until it gets down to me and to my dad. And as these two here ended up having a few children, and they have a Francis Amberson, 1720. Born in 1720, and Elizabeth Johnson he married, and she also was born in 1720, and so this was starting the next generation. Another child they had was a Matthew Amberson. So we had a Francis, a Matthew Amberson, 1725 to 1812, and he married a Mary Kelso. And then there's also the son William Amberson, and they don't have different middle names. So we have a William Amberson here with a son William Amberson here, married to Elizabeth Johnston. And I suppose the way to track somehow would be their wives being different names. But anyway, you'll find that there's a lot of William Ambersons and down through the history here, and so sometimes it does get a little confusing to keep track of who everybody is. Now, this William Amberson here went from 1730. I'm going to try to switch hands so I can move this pedigree up a little bit, this chart. Yeah, 1730 to 1763. And these two ended up having, let's see, these two ended up having, I'm kind of zoomed in on the camera here, so I'm having to pan around. They have a Johnson Rob Amberson, must have been Robert, and looks like the date there is 1754 to 1820, and then he married a Nancy Amberson. I guess they don't always have their maiden names when they couldn't find it. Another child of William Amberson, the second was another, let's see, another William Amberson, the third. So now we have three William Ambersons in a row. No middle name. He was married to Elizabeth Smith. And another son was James Amberson from 1757 to 1812, married to Martha Powell. So as you can start to see, we're getting a lot of William Ambersons. Now we have a James Amberson. The reason we look at the James Amberson, because this comes down to, through to my line. So now James and Martha had many children, and you'll look across here and you're going to see that they got this a whole bunch of children that we're going to go through here. See all the way across. Anyway, the first one here is Peter Parchment, and he married a Juliana Amberson. Now, I've heard stories about the possibility of Peter Parchment being sort of adopted by James Amberson and raised as one of his own, which is why they might be listed here. Then we have George Amberson here, married to Parker. I think Parker was probably her last name, and he was. This is the 1783. Okay, Peter Parchment. That's interesting. He's got an 1801 birth date. Juliana's got a 1782 birth date, and then George Amberson has a 1783, married to Parker, and then we have a John Amberson here, born in 1784, married to Sarah MacDonald. And another son here, William Amberson, born in 1788, married to Margaret Cusick. Margaret Cusick. Another son here is Samuel Ware, and why he's got a different last name I don't know, other than this is in 1803, so the dates are kind of funny. Also, they jump back to a much older date with a couple of these children, and it could be that he married an Abigail Amberson. Maybe she was in this case, maybe she was the offspring, the descendant, and he was married in. It's not clear to me how this all works with the names here. And we have another son here, Enoch Amberson, 1795 to 1830. And I guess they don't always list these in necessarily the chronological order. Maybe that's why I'm a little confused on some of this. But then we go to a Martha Amberson, 1785 birth date, and then the Silas Amberson, 1802. Apparently this Martha didn't have a record of being married. And then so Silas is married to Julianne Parchment. So now we have another Parchment here. It must be a daughter. Let's see, 1803. And that Peter Parchment, where'd he go, has it 1801. So my guess is this is a brother and a sister, these Parchments, and they came into the family, either adopted or married in or something like that. And so then that was a Parchment. Then we have James M. Amberson, married to Mary Elizabeth Parchment. So looks like we have two brothers married two sisters. James married a Mary, and Silas married Julianne. And coming back down through this genealogist pedigree, I'll try to zoom out a little bit here. We got James, came down to William, that then comes down to this next now, William and Margaret. Right here, they have a whole bunch of children too. So William and Margaret, they end up with James Amberson, married to Elizabeth Riddy. I think it's, or is it Riddle? I think it is Riddle, okay. And there's a Juliet Amberson, no spouse. In fact, okay, she lived for 1827 to 1931. And then we have a George Amberson, no spouse, and a John Amberson. Then a William Christian, married to Harriet. An Anne Amberson with no spouse. Then we have Elizabeth Amberson, no spouse. And then we go to a Thomas Hanley, married to Mary Jane Amberson, and they lived like they were born like in 1837 area. So that's the William Amberson. James, let's see, James, and that is where's my, here it is, from James to William. So from James to William, and then all those kids we just went through. And if we go back over here to the right, we're going to go back over here to James and Mary Elizabeth Parchment. James Amberson had some children, and he had, those two had an Eliza Amberson, born 1818, and they also had a James R. Amberson, and he married Clarissa Jane Walker. And James Amberson was born in 1816, and so was Clarissa Jane. They both were born the same year and were married. Now, these two ended up having some children, and they ended up with, they had children named, they just a female Amberson. It looks like maybe only lived a short time. We have a David Robert Maxey, married to Anna Elizabeth Amberson, and they were born like, he was born in 1834, she was born in 1847. And another child of James and Clarissa is William W. Amberson, married to Sarah Louise Tomerlin. So William W., born 1835, Sarah, born 1837. They had some couple of kids here, and the first one listed here on the left is Theodore T. Ragsdale, born 1848, and Frances Jane Amberson, born 1854. And their other son was George Amberson, and he married Sarah Hester. Now George was born in 1856 and Sarah was born in 1860. So as you can see, we're working our way down. Now George and Sarah had a bunch of kids. So going down here to the next row of, and they had a bunch, so I know some of them didn't survive. Let's go through it. Starting on the left side, we got William Jasper Amberson, 1877 and 1912. He married Millicent Casey. Another child here, this is Amberson with no name, so it looks like died the same year, 1879. A child that died young, same year. George A.D. Amberson, 1881 to 1883, so 2 years. This one child lived 2 years. Here's another Amberson. We don't know the gender either. 1883, he's died the same year. And then we have a John Newton Amberson here, and born in 1884, married to Maribah Amberson Matthews. I can't quite tell her middle name, but I'm guessing it maybe. Anyway, Maribah Matthews, and she was born in 1825, 1885, I think that says. And another son is Emmett Amberson. Emmett Amberson was born in 1880 and died in 1894, so that would put him at 14 years old, I think. I think that's what, I don't know if I can't quite see that on the camera maybe, but anyway, they lost some children fairly young. George, and then there was a George Amberson born in 1888 to 1902. Does that make sense? 12, that's, what is that, 14 years? I don't know how he could be married to Alpha Dorn Simpson, but the numbers don't quite make sense to me. She was born in 1890 and lived in 1973, so Alpha Simpson sure had a long life. And the next child over here is James Oldham, 1870, married, looks like, to Claudia May Amberson. I guess those are spouses, so Claudia must have been the descendant, although I know a lot of times in these they use maiden names, so it gets a little tricky, but I see the little line comes down from up above to her name, to Claudia, so she must have been a descendant of George Amberson and Sarah Hester. Claudia. And then another couple here is Elijah Lee Kelly, married to Bertha Amberson. Elijah was born in 1880. Bertha was born in 1893, so she was 13 years younger. We have Henry Pierre Lagrange, married to Marjorie Amberson. So apparently daughter, 1895 to 1908. Once again, I don't know how well these numbers work for getting them. Must got married really young or something. And then we have Oscar Riley Amberson, married to Christy Lovelady. Now here you can see the little line right here. Looks like he's he's got a last name of Amberson. Oscar is a descendant and married to Christy Lovelady. Then we have another one here, which is Byron William Johnson, born 1890, married to Elsie Stella Amberson. So she's a descendant here. I see the little line. So she's a descendant. I'm not sure what the exclamation point is, but something, record not quite verified. And she was born in 1900. Elsie Amberson. And the other child here is Horace Melvin Amberson, married to Sarah Vernon Negley. Horace was born in 1906. And Horace is my granddad. And he was born in Texas and then soon after that moved west. And so he's, his name was Horace Melvin. I guess over time he decided just to go by the name of Tex. So most everybody called him Tex. At least that's the name I remember growing up. Instead of calling him Granddad or anything, Grandpa was mostly Tex, was how he was referred to around the house. And so Tex and Sarah Negley, they had a few kids here, and let's see, we have Jack, Gareth, and Bernadine. So Bernadine was the daughter, and let's see, Bernadine was born in 1929. We have a Jimmy Amberson, born in 1932, and he married Joan Gilbert. Then we have, I don't know what this means. There's a funny symbol here I haven't seen before, but let's see, what did that highlight say? Alternative parents for Viola Amberson. So that's interesting. Anyway, Viola Lou Amberson, born 1934. Married to somebody named Stapleton. And then my dad, which is Horace Wayne Amberson, born 1927. Married Dixie Hatch, born in 1932. And then, of course, I'm a descendant of Wayne Amberson, my dad, and so here that's a genealogy based on Family Search. And we'll zoom back out of here, and I'll give you an overview now of how this looks, because it's an amazing pedigree when you look at all of this. Here it is, starts from the top. If you can see that, it starts up here from the top. You can see all the descendants, and you can see that there's a couple of lines here that's got a lot of kids in it. Here's another line here with a lot of kids in it, right all across here with Tex, my granddad Tex Amberson, being in that list, and then of course ending up down here through my dad, and then me. So that's the part we're going to do here. Now I'm going to switch over here to some books that Tex wrote. Tex, my granddad, wrote a couple of books. Now he's got this one called George Amberson of South Texas, written by H. Tex Amberson. And another book that I got was called The Ambersons of South Texas, written by Tex Amberson. Now if I go back to this first one, George Amberson of South Texas, he says here near the beginning that it covers 20 years, 1856 to 1876. So this book covers those years of our ancestry. And if I come over to this book here, Ambersons of South Texas, turn the page, he says here that it began on the dates of their marriage, December of 1875, and proceeds to the year of 1907. So this book here, it starts in 1875, and the previous book ends in 1876. So you can see that there's there's kind of like two generations here in these books, and they're very interesting reading. I'm going to put these away, and I'm going to go to some. Let's go to the beginning of this one. These are some photo albums I got from my mom when she passed with my parents. When my mom passed away, these were photo albums that came to me, and they've been sitting for a while. But I decided to. So a lot of these photo albums, they take, seems like they do, and they take trips, and so these are probably trips that they've taken somewhere, and back in those days. And I believe this is going to be mostly Tex and his second wife Helene. because Tex did divorce Sarah Verna Negley years earlier and then married Helene. And so this is some trip that they took, and you can see in this one it talks about the trees of mystery, some place that they were at. Looks like here Tex is trying to feed some wild animals, some little chipmunks or something, and trying to preserve some of these old photos digitally here. And this looks like they're in the world famous tree house on this trip, and some old photographs of them in these cars from the 50s. That's my guess. I believe that's Helene, Tex, back in the days when they were a lot younger, and then more pictures of them. And they don't have really any writing on these particular pictures. There are a few in this other photo album I'll show you in a minute that has more pictures. This looks like some place they went with stalactites, stalagmites, some cave or something that they're in. Looks like a couple women there. There's this one too. Some of these pictures have been in the heat, and the plastic covers on front of them have kind of warped, and as you can see it's very difficult. So on some of these pictures I actually cut the plastic off the front of it just this morning so that I could get good digital images of these pictures. Looks like maybe some kind of cemetery here that they found interesting and took a picture of. And then down here is looks like some kind of a dam or something that Tex is standing near. And then we go to the next page. Looks like some more photos of some type of cemetery headstones or something. I can't. Okay, at the bottom of this it says Chief Joseph. So that's a Chief Joseph memorial. And this headstone here, I can't quite read it either. Coyote Doctor, maybe? Anyway, it's pretty faded. And it looks like here they've got a bunch of logs from some logging operation. And then down here below it looks like some kind of a sawmill maybe that's trying to work with those logs. And then here they have a picture of the side of trail and hanging of George Ives of 1863. So somebody got hung there. And we got an old home there. Looks like maybe corrals and stuff. Looks like George was sitting up on this old stagecoach looking thing, getting a picture there, and I believe this Helene is standing in front of it there. What else have we got in this photo album? Picture of looks like Old Faithful. I've never been there, but that was what I'm guessing. Tex is standing next to it there. And then he's also standing next to a sign here. I cannot read the sign, but I'm assuming it's in that same park. And then they have this show this water coming down. It might be a dam overflow or something like that, or spillway. Not really sure. And then they have these picture of these trees with a car in the background, and I think those are bears that are laying on the road. And then there's a picture over here on the next page of it looks like a bunch of animals. I can't quite tell if those are buffalo or what those are, but anyway, there's a herd of something there they took out a picture of, and then there's this big pile of antlers that they have that they were seeing. Let's turn the page. What else have we got? That's about it. There's a page of some mountains there that might be in the area that maybe the Tetons or something. Alright, I'm going to go on to this next photo album. This photo album is trips that they took, or some older pictures I should say. It's hard to read here, but it says Amberson's Family Album 1895 to 1974. So I had to put some tape over the cover here to hold it together, and this is a kind of a vertical. This is a vertical photo album, and here you're going to start to see some pictures of. And Tex did a good job. I believe he's the one that put this together, and he did write down some information on these pictures, which is very helpful. George William Amberson, 1856. So if you remember the pedigree chart over there, we could probably match up these. He says that he's standing with a friend, so I think the one on the left is George Amberson, and then he's standing with a friend here. And what I plan to do here sometime soon is take some of these pictures and actually upload them to Family Search, and so they have pictures of some of these people. Okay, there's nothing written about these guys in here, but I do see on this picture here, second from the left. Oh, okay, that's a picture above. Second from the left was William J. William J. From the left, William Amberson, oldest son of George and Sarah. So that's, I don't know the other, but I guess the one is William Amberson on the left. And on the right it says W.J. Amberson. So I don't know, they've got a William J. and a W.J. Amberson in this picture, so I'm not sure exactly who they are. But and then on this picture here, it looks like we've got something a little hard to read. Funeral service of William J. Amberson were held yesterday morning at the former home of Myrtle Avenue. The Knights of Pythons were in charge of the service of the residents and of A and E. Conducted services at the Evergreen Cemetery. Amberson was one of the owners of the Bellevue Messenger service in the city. So we have that. And then come on down here and we've got a nice big picture of John Newton Amberson, 1884 to 1919, fifth child of George and Sarah. Photo taken 1895. Placed in the album in 1974. That's when this album was created. It was 1974. So here you see John Newton Amberson. Alright, go to the next page. We got a couple of girls here. I see Claudia. Okay, we see Claudia May Amberson, born 1890. That must be Claudia May. And then over here is Bertha Amberson, born October 6th. These are a lot of children of George and Sarah. And then down here we have, this one is Georgie Amberson, July 4th, 1888. Georgie Amberson here. And then coming down to this next section, we have this Oscar Riley Amberson, born 1898. Oscar, here's Oscar Amberson. And that's an interesting old photo. Then we come up here to this next page. We've got it says here above is Floyd Kelly shortly before his death in 1913. Floyd Kelly. And then over here it says Tex and Georgia taken in 1914. And then we got some pictures of here, some working animals. It's like trying to plow a field or something. Here's one that's sideways. Let's see. Looks like they're out just sitting on the dirt. No chairs, nothing, just roughing it. And this is here below George and Sarah Amberson, 1920. So the picture here of these animals is George Amberson breaking ground in Sulphur Springs Valley about 1916. Coming down here to these guys, okay, we have some younger guys here. Across here we've got several different pictures of people like at the lake or something here, so let's read about it. It says above is Chug Pennington and H. Amberson, Tex Amberson horsing around in Phoenix around 1924. So these are George. This is Tex Amberson in 1924 with some buddies. And then it says down here below, we have this picture here. This is going to say near Phoenix, 1927. Left to right. Tex and Verna, Jack, Marjorie, and Wally Forsyth. Then we have Alpha Amberson and Sarah, George Amberson, Emma Lou Amberson, Vera LaGrange, and Bobby Kant. Oh, and Bobby can't remember Three Little Tykes. Okay. Place in the album. So here's what he's writing, but anyway, that's that group of people there. It's got some really interesting photos from way back when. Here's one. Look at this. This one says George and Sarah taken by monument built in memory of Ed Shefflin, who discovered silver in Tombstone. This photo is about 1932. Here we have Sarah Hester Amberson. That's Sarah Hester. 1860 to 1939. Married to George Amberson about 1875. And then down below here, below that is a picture. And it says George Amberson, Phoenix, 1940. So that's where first we see. We know that the violin / fiddle playing was pretty prevalent in the family coming down through the years. And this is the first picture we're seeing of. I think in the books he might have mentioned the violin a little bit earlier than even this, going back to Texas and maybe before that. But anyway, so this is the heritage of the violin that my dad ended up playing, and my granddad Tex played violin. My dad, Horace Amberson, played the violin, and so you can see that it kind of came down through the lines. So here is, looks like a picture of some headstones that look like a really rough looking cemetery. I don't think I can quite read that. I don't know if you can read that headstone there, but I think it says Amberson on the back, somebody Amberson. And then here's a picture of your living son Wayne, 1945. So that would be Wayne Amberson. My dad, 1945. Down below here we got a picture, and it says upper left gravesite was of George and Sarah, okay, in Gila, New Mexico. Then upper right, Wayne Amberson, about 1945. And then over here on the left that we're looking at now is Jim and Wayne, Verna and Viola. These are siblings. About 1945, Burbank, California. Huh. Interesting stuff. Okay, we go to this next one. More siblings. We got Wayne and Jim and Bernadine and Viola. We got the 4 siblings again there growing up. This says about 1949 in Burbank, California. And then down here it says, oh, the lower one is 1949. The upper one, this was 1948. Down here is Viola. And on the right is Bernadine. Is it Viola? Bernadine, 1948. This picture's a little yellowed and a little hard to see, but it does say that Viola, Jim, Verna, Dean, and Wayne, 1952. And then here below it says Bernadine, Jack, Leslie, 1954. Leslie must be their daughter, Leslie Greth. So there's a picture of Jack. Alright, here's another picture. Could be of some of those same people, possibly. I just saw more writing on this page. Looks like more of the siblings. And then we have more of them. Looks like we got, I think this says Tex on the left, and Jim playing guitar in the middle, and Wayne Amberson on the right. Tex and Wayne are playing fiddles, and Jim, the brother, is playing the guitar there. And here is, looks like probably Wayne and his dad Tex playing the violins here together. Okay, we got, here's a reunion from Get Together in 1955. Some of the family. Here, Marge, Tex, and Claudia. Okay. 1959. Looks like Tex is playing the guitar there. We've got one here, Santa Rosa, California, Christmas, 1958. And then below that we have Marjorie, Tex, and Claudia, Disneyland, 1959. Vera, Jerry maybe? Santa Rosa, 1958, I think is what that says. Jack, oh, Slick, Loretta, 1955, Slick and Loretta. I guess that's what they call them. It's like they're maybe standing in front of their home. And then here is Afton, Vera, Tex, Loretta, and Beatree or Betty, maybe? So there's another get together. It could be all this, it could all be part of this 1955 reunion that they're doing here. Jerry, Loretta, Vera, Tex, and Helene. Okay. Transfer to the next page. This one, these guys really like the plaid shirts there. It says Mangus Springs, New Mexico, 1951. Big old tree, and then it's like some building behind them there. So some of the family ended up in New Mexico, and so they did get together in New Mexico sometimes as well. Here it is, Mangus Springs, New Mexico, 1958. This is December. This would have been at Christmas time. Oh, I think I got 2 pages here this time. Oh, there we go. Okay, we have here Claudia, Helene, and Marge. 1959 at the guest house. Another one. Oh, this is Disneyland, 1959. Marjorie, Helene, and Claudia. And next down here we have the reunion 1955. And here at the bottom, Tex, Helene, Alpha, Jack, Oscar, Christie. So Tex, I guess, on the left, and Helene, Alpha, Jack, Oscar, and Christine. You remember Oscar, yeah. Reunion 1955. More of the relatives in 1955. That reunion looks like they had a pretty good turnout, a lot of people, and they've got the dog in the picture there. Now this one says Lone Pine, California, Christmas 1956. Lone Pine, California, Christmas. And then here we have a picture of Wayne Amberson playing the fiddle. Actually, in here he's playing the violin style. He mostly played violin style. He is trained violin, but occasionally, depending on the song, he would kind of go to another fiddling style. Typically, he would do more classical type violin music. I guess there was something in the paper about him that was cut out here. A picture from the paper, which looks like it's almost the same picture of that. Okay, next page we got Dixie and Wayne. So now we're getting down to my parents, Wayne and Dixie Amberson. Dixie Hatch married Wayne Amberson. And this is, I crossed out the date that he had. I think it was wrong because I think these dates were all from the same time in 1967. So I think this is 1967 because I see they're all dressed in the same. So I think it's all the same gathering. So 1967 for Wayne and Tex, his dad. And then here's where I started to figure out when he said Jeff, Jody, Robbie, and Lori. It should be Jeff, Jody, Lori, and Robbie. And I figure I'm about, well, I may not be 7, but I'm probably at least 6 years old there. Now, let's take a look. Let me get, so you can see right there. He had 1960, but I'm obviously, or he had 1964, but I'm obviously bigger than 4 years old, I think. It could have been 1965, I don't know. Anyway, I don't think it was 1964, but maybe I was 4 years old there. I look pretty big for 4. But Jeff would have been 8 or 9. And then the same time period here. It's got us in here. The siblings. Back in the 60s. Alright, turn the page. Now this is the hotel, the Alta Sierra Resort Hotel in California. And in a minute here I'm going to go to a map and show on the maps where this, close to where this is. And of course as kids we visited there a few times for family vacations. So this is the dining room in Alta Sierra Resort with some of the people there that were visiting that time. It may not have been us, but it's probably some other family. Here we have Helene at the resort, and then shows Tex as being the bartender here. And of course they were not LDS, and they did have a resort with a bar, and they smoked and drank, but that was the lifestyle for them in those days. Tex and Helene. We had some really good memories of visiting them in California. We got the Christmas tree in the dining room. In the 60s. Wow, remember we used to do Christmas trees like that with the silver tinsel. Okay, Tex and Helene. New. I don't know what that means. New Year's Eve. New. Tex and Helene. New. Anyway, I don't know. if that's someone's name is Newell, possibly, or Newt, maybe, yeah. And then we got John Ringer, typical bartender. Except the typical bartenders don't drink. Typically they don't drink much while they're working. That's my understanding. Anyway, this is a shot of Betty, Charles, and Claudia. I think that's Charles. 1968. Ventura, California. So you see they're starting to get a little older. And here's a couple of dogs. Time Out, Minna, and Pony. I think of these dogs' names. And then I don't remember the dogs, but here's Ellen and Helene here with Al. Not sure who Al is. It says it's in March of '71. Here is Al Fickle and Tex A. March of '71. Okay. The next page, we have a bunch of ladies here, probably a lot of siblings and relatives. And below it says Helene, Bertha, Marjorie, Claudia, Christy, Alpha, family reunion, 1955. So Alpha is a woman's name apparently. This says Tex Afton, Bernice, Harold, family reunion, 1955. Tex, Afton, Bernice, and Harold. This one says Tex, Helene, Claudia, Bertha, Alpha, Jack, Marjorie, Oscar, and Christy. Oh wow, look at that. Tex, Helene, Claudia, Bertha, Alpha, Jack, Marjorie, Oscar, and Christy. That must be all of them. Tex, Helene, Alpha, Jack, Oscar, and Christy. Looks like this was taken the same place as the previous one there in front of that house. Or at least a few of these pictures. The last 3 or 4 were from there. Here's another one of those same group, basically. Similar group. This one is some more of the women. Vera, Bertha, Marjorie, Claudia, Loretta, Alpha. Oh, we got a Bertha and a Betty, I see. Vera, Bertha, Marjorie, Claudia, Loretta, Alpha, Betty, Christy, and Helene. Got all the women there. Looks like some spouses and a mixture of that, maybe this back to the siblings again. And then we have here Vera, Bertha, Claudia, Alpha, Christy, and Helene. Still 1955. They got a lot of good pictures that year. And just about to, that's the last page. So there is our all of our pictures. And the thing I want to do now is just come back over here for a second onto the computer where we were looking at, and I'm going to switch over to where this Alta Sierra. This is the Alta Sierra Ski Resort, which I believe is near to the hotel. But you can see that it's not too far from Bakersfield, and it's in the bottom part of the Alta Sierra mountain range. And still, if I start to zoom in there, one thing that I remember from being a kid was this Lake Isabella, which you see here on the map. So I remember driving past Lake Isabella as a kid, so I know this is the right area. And then this is the Alta Sierra Ski Resort, and of course they had the Alta Sierra Hotel Resort Hotel was the name of it. That was probably somewhere up here in these mountains above Lake Isabella. So that is where we used to go as children to visit Tex and Helene. That concludes our genealogy for today. Well, actually there is a little bit more I wanted to share with you. Here's a photo that I found. It's actually in a frame, and it looks like the Texas band is performing. They're all dressed up, and in front they've got a microphone and everything, so it looks like they are all taking a picture of when they were performing somewhere. Now this photo album here says Helene, Tex and Friends, Mexico City, Lakewood. So this must have been some trip that they made, and document some more of their traveling. So here's a picture. I believe that's Helene and Tex. This page is upside down. Let's see if I can get those. Kind of glamour shots, and then this one's turned sideways, so I'm going to have to be a little bit nimble to get this stuff all correct. Alright, so here's some more pictures of them on their trips, probably out dining and stuff in, you know, different restaurants and things. We got the grandkids over today, so you can hear some of them in the other room. Helene and Tex, they said they were traveling maybe with some other couples and other family members, and so here's a picture of them all together. Oh, look at that. That looks like a wedding. This is something house. Doesn't give the whole name. Oh, Milton House. Okay, that's the Milton House where they got married. That must be Tex and Helene when they got married, or my guess. Beautiful dress. Trying to get the glare off a little bit. There we go. Let's see what's the next page. Got another one this direction. Okay. We don't get really names or any information on these pages. Oh, here's one. Same orientation. Looks like part of the band again here. Is got a picture of the drummer there and a couple guitars. Looks like they're ready to perform. Trying to get a clear shot of this. It's getting hard to not get some shadows or glare. Special thank you to the old man of the mountain and his wife, Tex and Helene Amberson, for the many hours of pleasure they have given us and their many patrons during this and their past years here at the Alta Sierra Resort in 1971. And Chuck Albany combo. That must have maybe been the band. We got Eddie and Noble. So anyway, this was a special thank you. They must have had some special big get together and celebrate some special occasion. There it is, the Alta Sierra Hotel Resort. Back with those cars. I think there's cars from the 50s. I don't know exactly when Tex and Helene bought this resort, but it must have been in the late 50s, I'm guessing, or mid 50s even. But I don't think before the mid 50s. Let's see here, we got just like at the bar. I remember the bar and the restaurant. I didn't go in there too often, but I was in there a couple of times briefly walking through. And then let's switch back up to this direction. More pictures of the hotel. And what was interesting is out to the side of this hotel was these big rocks, these big boulders that were all piled up there. And I guess it was all natural. I think it was natural, but we used to go play when the weather was nice and go play over there in those rocks and climb all around those things. I remember doing that two or three times. And it was really a lot of fun to find they had like almost a couple like little like cave type things in those boulders you could climb around in. I'm sure it wasn't near as big as it seems like in my memory. Looks like they got a bunch of snow here on these trees. Trying to get some decent light on it without the glare there. That's a little better. Well, I think that's the end of the album, so now maybe we are done.